recording. All right, hello and good evening. My name is Carmen Geyer and I am the Communications and Community Relations Coordinator for the Port Angeles School District. I will be your moderator for the evening and I would like to welcome you to Seaview Academy's virtual open house. This virtual open house is being presented remotely via Zoom for all attendees and is recorded. You'll receive a recording of this presentation afterwards. At any time, if you have any questions, please use the chat feature or you can use the raise hand feature and we can call on you. But like Cindy said, if there's something that just comes up and this can be a conversation, so we allow that or welcome that as well. But there will also be a portion for questions at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, I would like to welcome and introduce Cindy Crum, Seaview Academy's principal. Take it away, Cindy.
Hi, thank you, Carmen. Thank you, Carmen, for moderating tonight and for also arranging for this Zoom virtual house. I also want to thank all of you who are with us tonight, who are joining either from Port Angeles or outside Port Angeles. I also want to thank the staff that are here from Seaview tonight to help answer any questions and help to share the obviously wonderful program that we believe that we have to offer families and students in Washington State. The next slide. So Seaview Academy is part of the Port Angeles School District, and this will be our second full year as a school, as an online school in Washington State. We are an approved multi-district program through OSPI, but we are part of the Port Angeles School District. Port Angeles is located on the Olympic Peninsula. We have the beautiful Straits and the Olympic Mountains, and we're right across from Victoria, BC, if you were interested. Tonight's agenda, we tried to put what we felt like you would need in this type of a virtual open house, but by no means are those the only things that we are open to speaking to tonight. I also want you to know that if there is anything that we can't answer tonight, I'd like to take the time to research it and get back to you. So make sure that is also, you let us know that. I have staff here tonight to help me really help you as parents and students understand what is Seaview and how it would, what would be Seaview like for your student or for your family. The first agenda item is understanding ALE, and ALE stands for Alternative Learning Experience, and it is an alternative learning experience is when the majority of the work is done away from the school. And so the state has allowed us to create these online programs to serve students within the state of Washington in a way that would allow them to access high quality curriculum aligned to Washington state standards that can meet the graduation requirements for a Washington State diploma or a diploma from Port Angeles High School or Seaview Academy. So an alternative learning experience is when your student does the majority of the work away from the school. It's different in that it's individualized for each kid. You can have 2 or 3 students, family members in Seaview, and notice that each student is their written student learning plan is written and personalized for that student. Students can design, these plans can be designed to challenge and help students become more engaged. For instance, it's a great way for our highly capable to be challenged in all grade levels. And in that challenge, we can also incorporate personalized learning that helps them grow and enjoy school. Teachers create these opportunities for these meaningful parent involvement as well. So it's not just the student and the teacher, but ALE really creates an environment where parents, students, and teachers work together to create this plan. The instruction is monitored and adjusted to meet the needs of students, meaning that the teachers and the students are in close contact, whether it be through email or Google Meets or telephone conversations. They get to know their students. They get to, through that communication, they can adjust to monitor instruction and assessments to meet the needs of that student. Whether they need more time or less time, that is the beauty of an online curriculum that is managed and supported with a certificated Washington State teacher. So next slide. It's different than brick and mortar. A lot of it is tailored to meet the needs of the student and the family. There are things that we have to do and that make us accountable and the family accountable, and one of those is attendance. Much like, and unlike a brick and mortar school where attendance is taken every day, see, when you're in an ALE program or an online program, attendance is taken weekly. And it's taken by a two-way communication between the student and the teacher. And that communication can be in the form of an email, a Google Meet, an in-person meeting, or a telephone call. There's flexibility with classes, the number of classes, the pacing of those classes. We have a school year to complete, theoretically, a menu of classes, and the teacher and the student, with the help of the counselors, can help plan that in their written student learning plan so that it fits the needs of the student and it fits what's going on in their life and their family, while at the same time offering a platform and a curriculum that they can access from home, or if they're traveling, or they could be at a family member's house or maybe a doctor's appointment. So that's what makes it even more flexible, is that when you can access it from multiple locations. We also offer we also offer contracts in PE, in novel studies, and other electives. We offer AP classes and honors classes in world language. We offer credit recovery for those students who may need that, especially after the last couple of years with the pandemic. So in the menu of classes that we also have a wide selection of, I believe, really high quality, engaging electives and career and technical classes. Weekly progress through those two-way communications is assessed, but every month the teacher does a monthly progress report, and that isn't just for audits and compliance, but for you, the student and the parent, to know that I am progressing towards my goal, my academic goals. And if I'm not, then it's our job to say, this is what you need to do, and this is what I need to do to get you back on progress. The state says that you need to make monthly progress, and in that month, there could be reasons for maybe 1 week if you're ill or if there was an emergency. You have the rest of the month to get your progress, and if you're in close communication with your teacher, that is so doable. And parents really appreciate that piece of how the monthly progress goes. We have two-way, as I said, weekly academic communication. That is a great way to assess progress as we move through the month. Next slide. I want to introduce now Cheryl Girardi. Cheryl is a Washington certified science and is our science content area teacher, as well as one of our mentors. Cheryl was with us last year, so after a year of working with students and families, I felt like you needed to hear this from a mentor teacher that could help you understand what some of the Seaview and what some of the things that you'll experience as a student will look like. Thank you,
Thank you.
Cheryl.
Yeah, thank you, Cindy. And Cindy has talked about a couple of these topics already. One of the most important things is that we do have these two-way weekly communications. And as much as we'd love to talk to your kids about, what they did this weekend, or, what their plans are for the next holiday coming up, what really counts is an academic conversation. And so when you get into this program and get to introduce to your teacher, each teacher is going to have a form, and that form is going to be housed in Google Classroom. The Google Classroom is just going to be a place for us to share documents. And one of the really important documents is this two-way weekly academic communication. And the academic communication form is really short. It's manageable for both your student and the teacher. And this documentation is also going to help us monitor attendance as well. And like I said, it's going to be housed in Google Classroom. And when you have your meetings with your teacher, then you'll be able to understand how to access it, and they'll go through a practice on how to go about filling that out. So that's really, really important for us to be doing. And then the monthly progress report, as Cindy mentioned as well, this is where the student at the high school, I can speak to the secondary level, the student is going to start filling out the form. And essentially, they're going to be sharing with us what their grades are, if they're on target, and what they're learning about. And then we are going to be sharing that with the parents as well. And again, this document is going to be housed in the Google Classroom. So it's a great platform for us to be able to type back and forth and then share it out with the parents and even Cindy as well. One of the concerns that some of our families might have is like, is this program really right for me? And once you get into the program and you learn about the pacing and whatnot, for most kids, this is a fantastic program. But for some students, what we might see is that 1 month they maybe aren't doing so well. And so the teacher and the parent and the student and Cindy, we're going to come together and find out maybe what's not working so well, and we're going to come up with a plan. And that's going to be housed within the monthly progress report. We'll have a little documentation about what we're all trying to do, because we really want your child to be successful. But we also have to be realistic and understand that sometimes this program isn't going to be the best for all kids. And so we do have an intervention program, and that's going to be within the monthly progress report. You'll see that documentation. And as it says here, after about 3 months, then your child may not be fit for this program, and we're going to find maybe a more suitable education opportunity for them. Do you have any questions about the two-way weekly communication or the monthly progress report? We can pause here for a moment. Hey, Carmen, if there aren't any questions in the chat, then you can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. The roles and responsibilities. This is something that I really like to talk with the students about. I know a lot of the teachers are going to be talking with you guys, but sometimes it's like, what is this program going to be like? So on average, a typical student is going to want to spend about 27.75 hours. That's very particular. Some students might go a little faster. Some students might need a little bit more time, but there's great flexibility. One thing that we like to say is that you can go as fast as you want, but you can't necessarily go as slow as you want. And so that's why the teacher is going to be here to help motivate you and keep you on track. We are going to be having the two-way weekly communication for the students. That is your big piece. That's really, really important for your child to do, because it also helps us count for attendance. And then, of course, completing the monthly progress report and getting that done within the very last day of the month is perfect. If you want to do it a couple days ahead of time, that's totally cool too. And then parents and guardians. This is obviously an online school, so having a reliable place for internet service is going to be great. And then sometimes I understand that there's interruptions. So if you have a plan B, if there's another location where your child can go and work that has really good internet service, that would be something for you guys to be thinking about. And also, we know homes can have a lot of different functions, and now you're going to need to carve out a very special dedicated place for your child to do their work that is distraction free. It doesn't really matter where it's at in your home, so long as it's a special place, and make it good lighting, a nice workspace where it's going to be comfortable, a comfortable chair, so that your child can really focus in on doing their schoolwork and not getting distracted by other things. And we'll talk about that. I know I talk about that at some tips and tricks, one of the first Google Meets that we have. The other thing, parents, you do this, of course, all the time. You're going to be monitoring your child's physical, emotional, social, emotional health. And then on the academic side, there is a great feature when you get a chance to get into the Edgenuity program. There's a parent portal. You're going to have your own personal code, and you are going to be able to check in on your students at any time and find out what their progress is. Sometimes, the kids are really good about keeping you posted on how they're doing. And sometimes you might not be seeing them for a day because of work schedules and whatnot. So you can check in on their progress at any time with that personal parent portal. The other big thing, and I noticed a couple parents' names here that I worked with last year, and I'm sure they can attest to this, that coming up with a regimented schedule, whatever works for your child, one person's schedule is going to be totally different than another. But coming up with a really good plan for your kid is going to be really important. So having some kind of structure in the home for doing schoolwork, I know is going to help make your student much more successful. And then, of course, communicate with us. The odd thing about being an online teacher is that we don't literally see your child every single day. And so it's going to be really nice to hear from you if something's going on, or if you're really excited about a certain topic and your child's talking to you about it, talk to us, and then we can find out if we can do something more for them as well. Or if there's some kind of issue, talk to us. And we really, really want to make this a good opportunity for your kid. And then as Seaview instructors, as Cindy mentioned, we are going to be helping create those individualized learning plans. We're going to be monitoring and adjusting to suit the needs of your child, because our goal is to make this a successful program for you. And we're going to be communicating the weekly academic goals with the parents as well. And of course, share those documents with the monthly progress report. Any questions on this slide before we move on, or anything in general?
Got a quick question.
Okay.
Regarding to the student role there's like a weekly document as well as the monthly report. So my son is currently 7 years old, like a second grader. Is he able to, finish those, or is it going to be some pretty easy way, step to go finish this?
I'm primarily secondary, so I'm going to bounce this to, I believe, Eric, if you're on, if you can speak to that. How is it going to work with a 7-year-old?
Sure, yeah. Thanks for the question. Yeah, typically with the 7-year-old, it wouldn't necessarily be a form that they were submitting. We can be a little bit flexible on that two-way communication. I've done interactive Google Meets similar to this type of setting with kiddos and parents right online. That has sufficed for the two-way communication. So we can certainly be flexible with how that looks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions before we move on to the next slide? Okay, go ahead, Carmen. One of the opportunities that we would like to offer any student who can get to Port Angeles is the Orca Lab. The Orca Lab is specifically designed as a quiet, friendly, safe place for students to do their work. Sometimes working at home is fantastic, and sometimes you need a slightly different learning environment to do your schoolwork. So this is going to be a great opportunity for those of you who are in the area, or for those of you who want to drive over. We're going to be having the Orca Lab open on Mondays through Thursdays from 1 until 3. And there's also going to be certified staff there. We have a couple different people. Paula, who is here today, she is going to be our math person, and so she's going to be there once a week. And so if students need a little extra help, that would be another opportunity to meet with Paula in person. And I'll be there once a week to help with the science kids, but really it's just a place sometimes to have a different place to do your schoolwork.
Can I add to this, Cheryl?
Yes, please.
Another thing that since this is just our second year, we would really like to offer virtual Orca Labs, where students have the opportunity to get that same kind of tutoring or special support virtually. Those that can't drive to Port Angeles, who may live too far away for that to happen. So we are not totally unaware that there are going to be needs as such as tutoring and such that we will provide online and in a virtual setting. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, thank you, Cindy. Yeah, I know with my students, I have a Google Meet at least once a week. I know several of the other Seaview Academy teachers did that. And I know Paula, my goodness, she was doing Google Meets with her students, with, well, all of our students regarding math all the time. So we definitely, thank you, Cindy, for bringing it up, because we are definitely here for your kids. We certainly want to make sure this is a good learning environment for them at all times. Okay, thank you for moving on to the next slide, Carmen. These are some general strategies that work for the typical student. Setting goals. I personally am a goal setter, and I found that a lot of students who started on Monday, for example, in the Edgenuity program, you can see all the assignments that are going to be coming at you. And so if you, as a parent, sit down with your child and come up with a plan, what's going to work for you? You might be having a family get together, and so maybe you're gone one day. So you can flex your schedule a little bit, but just making sure that you get all the tasks in every week. Most generally, students spend about 5 to 6 hours. That's not for every student. And this is not 5 to 6 hours on the computer every single day. Sometimes you're going to be reading a book, or you're going to be writing a paper, or you're going to be doing a PE credit, for example. I know some of the students did last year. So it's not necessarily 5 to 6 hours every single day on the computer, but on average, it's going to be just like regular school, spending about the same amount of time doing coursework. Of course, the big thing is making sure that your child gets, and for the secondary, they turn in the two-way weekly communication. And for elementary, and even for some of the high school, there are going to be other ways. You can do a Google Meet with a teacher, so long as you're talking academics, a phone call or an email to check in, or even through Edgenuity program, there's a way for teachers and students to communicate, and that will count towards the two-way weekly communication. Well, this might be flexible to Friday at 3. I know we're going to be taking attendance, and this might be just a common courtesy is to get the communication in before 3 o'clock so that we can count you for attendance. And then making sure that you are completing any of your missing work, catching up. Like, for example, if Tuesday was a really busy day to you personally, catching up by Friday night would be really good. And we also want to make sure that you're requesting any kind of tutoring throughout the week so that you don't get behind. Ask questions. Falling behind a day or so, it's not going to be a big deal, but we don't want it to snowball into more than that, okay? Any other questions right now? All right, go ahead and move on to the next slide, please. And Cindy, if you wanted to answer, I know we've talked about some of these, but I'll let Cindy talk about anything else with these frequently asked questions. Thank you.
So the first one is, what type of student should consider enrolling in this program? I think it suits all. I think what last year taught me and taught parents and teachers as well is I don't think we know. I think that some of the good things that came out of parents choosing an online program because school wasn't in session is that they realized that they had options for their kids. And maybe it wasn't the option they had thought when they first signed up, but what they realized at the end is this really fit their students' learning. So it wasn't just about maybe what they thought they were enrolling for the reasons they thought in September. But by the end of the year, they said, my student has never been more successful. And that is, and I look at two types of students. The one is they need more time, or they need flexible times during the day in which to do school. We know that some of our adolescents don't do well at 7:30 in the morning, and Seaview allows that student to log in later, complete those assignments when they're at their best. This allows students who may be medically fragile and can't do 5 or 6 hours a day. And you get 7 days to do this work, not 5. It's not a traditional Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 3. It's how it fits your family. And it's good for students who may be looking at a professional sport that they're competing at. It could be for students whose parents travel or whose parents are in the middle, who have in the military. Here in Port Angeles, we have Coast Guard families, and sometimes those families don't get to see their students with them enrolled in a traditional program. But with the flexibility of Seaview, it does make that kind of environment more. We can help those students. We can help those students who need more time, and then we can help those students who are high cap. You may have a middle school student who needs to be taking geometry in 8th grade. We can do that. We can give them those higher level classes that they may not be able to take in a brick and mortar school just due to the numbers, and that you can't always offer a class unless you have certain number of students. And that's why we can offer this huge variety of electives. So I think that you definitely have to have a student who is willing to be self-motivated and who can focus. Not that they don't need or deserve your support or ours, because we all have those days when we need that push, right? You can do it. You need to get up. But I do, in a couple of slides ago, Cheryl mentioned that the parent is a huge partner in this. So if you see something that they may not have shared with their teacher, we're relying on you to work with, to tell the teacher so that we can be a better fit, even if it's something as, my son or my daughter really wants to be able to take a test again to get a better grade. They may not know they can do that, but if you're engaging with the teacher as well, you can share that with them, and he'll be able to maybe you can ask the questions that he may not have thought of, or she may not have thought of, or sometimes they don't know how to ask them. Typical day for a Seaview student. I'm starting to see some chats come up about the hours. I'm going to let Coco or Stephanie speak to that, because as principal, I don't think I have. I would really like them to share. Stephanie, what do you believe is a typical day for a 4th or a 5th grader at Seaview?
I saw someone put something in like 2 to 3 hours. I would agree with that. We're not looking at 5 or 6 hours. But some kids I've had to change their curriculum a little bit. So add a book or something else in place of something else. So just depended, but I would say 2 to 3. But some of my kids got up early in the morning and did a little bit, and took a long break, and then work later in the day too. So from like after dinner. So, that's what's really nice about this program, is you can kind of pick it up or just do it in tiny spurts throughout the day. Mine didn't like to sit for a lot of my young ones, didn't like to sit for 2 or 3 hours, nor did I even mention that to them that they should be doing that. I told them to take breaks, and they needed to do that throughout the day. So doing a little bit, walking away, doing a little bit more, walking away, do some PE, do some running outside to kind of mix it up a little bit. I didn't have mine sit for a long period of time. So I'd say, yeah, is that what you saw too, Eric?
Yeah, the other consideration I was just going to add is, especially for some of the younger students, is what you might typically think, and I know Cheryl sort of addressed this, what you might typically think of them doing for 5 or 6 hours may not necessarily be them doing that. There's going to be a lot of different activities that are still counts towards their academic progress. There's times when I've assigned, gone over games that students can play with, sometimes a sibling or sometimes a parent, that helps build math fluency skills, as just an example. So you might not think of, oh, well, he was just playing a game. Well, no, that is building on academic needs that the students have. So so a lot of times it can look a lot different than what you might be thinking as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's also taking into consideration what are the interests and the activities that this family does, and how can we incorporate that into their curriculum. So if a family are huge readers, you can incorporate that reading time into their learning plan, and that's part of those hours that or those weekly hours that a kid is going to count towards that learning plan. You may have structured time where you go out and play. I have a family that takes a walk every evening and they walk their dogs. They have more than one, and we count that as part of their day. So when you meet with your teacher and they start to get to know you, and believe it or not, I've had both teachers and parents and students tell me, I know my students or I know my teacher better than I did when I was in a brick and mortar. So these weekly contacts, these daily maybe emails or phone calls because you need some help, they really do help you start to trust and get to know that teacher so that you can ask for those things, or you feel safe enough to say, you know, I really spend a lot of time outside walking my dog and helping my mom and dad. How can we make that a part of your day? That is what alternative learning is all about. It's not trying to mimic a brick and mortar PE or a music program, or even the seat time that is involved with students in a brick and mortar school. So that's all I have to say about that. How do students stay engaged? Well, I think as a teacher, we have all, even when we teach in online, is you might think it's really probably more challenging than keeping 25 to 30 students engaged all at the same time. But it truly, to me, has not been. Because we get to know that personalized student, or we get to know students and then we personalize their learning plan, I feel like no one's perfect, but I feel like that is one of our strengths, that we really do a good job of helping students stay engaged because we take into consideration the whole child as we're building this plan, as well as what is expected of them at grade level. I don't want you to think that we don't have standards or that we aren't accountable for getting kids what they need to progress in the scope and sequence in the educational system. We want your students to have a high academic curriculum, and whether that be online or something that we've put together as a team, but it's high and it's engaging. And so that we've taken in their interests. And also, if you look at the variety of teachers that we have at Seaview, their interests and their experience, I think that we do a really good job. I want to just to another minute with a middle school student last year. She was really having a hard time. Her mom called me. She was just not able to even want to get into the computer because it was probably February or March. So we've been at it since September. I told her teacher, and the next thing I know, this teacher is introduced her to one of our artists here, this girl loved to draw. And the next thing you know, she's working with someone and doing artwork for skateboards and surfboards and wakeboards. So there are ways to connect these students to the community as well, and to 4-H. And we have students who stay engaged because we allow them to integrate their interests such as farming. And we have students who are showing animals and they're traveling in order to do that. So I think that's one of our strengths. And I challenge students and teachers to work together to make that even better this year than last year. Any questions about that? For secondary, I guess what I'd say is another way that students stay engaged is some of them work, some of them are part-time enrolled in Running Start, some, if they can be enrolled at Seaview and attend Port Angeles High School or Lincoln High School or Stevens Middle School. So we do have the ability to have a student split their days, and that really seems to help them stay engaged. I think older kids too really like the fact that they are driving the car in this sense. You know, they have control, and it's not the teacher telling them, you know, and they're not waiting to come back the next day and finish this lesson. If they want to, they can finish it that day. And if they need more time, they get that too. So I don't want to ramble. I could talk forever about alternative ed. So I will ask for questions. And if there aren't any, then I'll just talk about how to enroll.
Yeah, thank you, Cindy. We do have a question in the chat. Thank you, Donna, for the question. It's what is the anticipated completion date of the initial learning plan? And then also, will students have the opportunity to review available electives before the start of school?
Good questions. The anticipated start is truly, ALE has a beginning, your written student learning plan has a beginning date and an ending date. And we manage that, and it's a year. But we manage that monthly, actually weekly and then monthly to get there. And that's what I like about, that's what really holds us all accountable are those weekly and monthly progress reports. We can also be creative and students might say, I don't want to go that far out and I need shorter dates. So with the teacher helping them and the counselor, maybe a high school student takes 4 classes and is the goal is the learning plan is set that they finish those in 3 months and they start 4 more. So the dates typically run the year, but there is so much you can do if you need something different for your child. With high school, we tend to go with semester 1 and semester 2. We need to adhere to a good transcript. And when your student graduates, we want their transcript to be any transcript that can be accepted by any state university, any private university. So we adhere to that as much as strictly as we need to, but yet with the same interest of all of our students involved. And then as far as the electives go, what I suggest, what I have been doing is calling, I've been meeting with Seaview kids either over the phone or in person. And I tell them, and when I'm preparing their written student learning plan, I might just write in fine arts, I might just write in elective and say, okay, you need to, and I'll give them the link. They can go to the Genuity course catalog. It takes them directly to the classes that are offered. Then they can go in and they can pick them and then they write them down. And when their teacher calls them, they say, I've decided I want to take culinary arts for my elective and I want to take intro to art for my fine arts, and then the teacher can enroll them. So I do the core, the classes that they need, their English, their social studies, their math, and their science. Those classes can be then, the student can go in and pick those classes, and then when their teacher calls them, and they will be getting a call before September 1st, because our goal is for all students to be able to access if they've enrolled. And the way to enroll, I'm just going to go into that right now, is to go on to the Seaview Academy website. It says enroll now. The sooner you enroll and we get that paperwork, the sooner we can assign a teacher. And then we know that you will have access come the first day of school, which is September 2nd. And that's a very important date.
And then we have another, and Donna says, thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Donna.
Yeah, and then we have another question. So Christina, thank you for your question. She said, hi, I have a 5th and a 7th grader. Am I understanding each student has just one teacher assigned to them?
If at all possible, yes. A 5th and a 7th grader, that is our goal. That is our whenever possible. And so, but it's not always doable. But if we can, we know the benefit of one family having one teacher. And I think that Stephanie, any of our teachers would speak to how amazing that is for them as well, because it gets them to know the family twice as well. So Stephanie, did you want to speak to the joys of having siblings?
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously I just love this program anyway, so I couldn't speak even more highly than I am about it. I just love it. That's why I'm doing it again. But for me, you know, and I think it's easier too for families. I mean, if I can talk to 2 kids when I make the phone call or do a Google Meet, it's great for you too, because we're kind of all in this together and we can all work together. And I just love that piece. And I know that's what we're trying to do again this year. Last year it worked great because I didn't have to make as many phone calls either. You know, it made it easier for me. And I know it made it a lot easier for the family as well. It just really was helpful. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know how, I don't have my list yet, but I'm sure I'll have some of those this year too. So it's great.
There are no other questions in the chat at this time.
So just one other thing about the enrollment and important dates. As much as and I hate to keep referring to the brick and mortar, but because thank God we have brick and mortar schools and a traditional way for most kids to access. But I also think that it's so nice that we have this opportunity for families who need something different. But the important thing is, if it doesn't happen on the first day, in a flexible environment like Seaview with an online curriculum and the teachers who are willing and able to provide curriculum and other creative ways. If it's a week after that, if you decide a week after that, or maybe it's October, maybe something you tried something and it didn't work and you call me in October, we don't have those hard and fast rules so that if you don't enroll by this date, you can't earn credit by the end of the first semester. And oftentimes that's why we are that safety net for that student who maybe transfers into a district and the brick and mortar school is 4 weeks into a semester. And we can be that safety net for that kid until the new grading period starts and help them earn credit. So I wanted to add that dates are, yes, I need them, we all need them. And the first day of school is September 2nd. It's Thursday. And then we have the 3-day weekend. And then we start the September 7th, we're back. So but we understand that there may be things that prevented you from enrolling right now. And as much as we would love everyone to be enrolled by the 2nd, we understand that if that doesn't happen, we are still here for you. And I don't want someone to think that they can't still enroll. So I have a parent that says my son is the 2nd grade and we are applying from out of district. We submitted our application today. May I know when we will be contacted? You will be contacted in the next day or 2. You will be contacted and Mary, our secretary, will contact you or she'll be your first point of contact. And then our Dean of Students, Coco Carlson, will then be assigning the teacher, and you should get a phone call or an email from that teacher either no later than Monday. And if you have questions, call me. And I can put my contact information in here. If you could add my contact information, Carmen, to this open house format, then they can contact me tomorrow and we can talk about some specific things that you may have that you may not want to, talk about tonight. Or if you have anything that you think about tonight. So if this has you thinking later on tonight and you jot something down, don't be afraid to call Seaview and we will, if like I said, we don't know the answer, we will get back to you with whatever, we will search for the answer and get back to you. If you are applying from out of district, you do have to fill out the choice transfer, which is easy to do. And the link is on our website and it is an OSPI form. OSPI stands for the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction. Seaview is a OSPI approved academy. And so they've also approved the online curriculum that we use, just in case anyone had that question in mind. All of our teachers are Washington State certified. And like I said, Seaview is a local Washington State online school. And if you have any other questions, my contact information will be there. And if I can't give you the answer, I will find someone who will. So if you have any more questions, we're still here.
Yeah, so we do have a couple more questions, good questions coming in. Thank you, Marnay. We homeschooled last year, but previously attended PASD. Do I need to fill out a district application before I can apply for my kids to attend the Seaview program?
I don't think so. No, Marnay, I would just enroll in Seaview. And I mean, if you want to, you would just go online and enroll at Seaview. That will get shot to us. Mary will call you. And if you need to do anything like that, Mary will tell you then. Yeah. So she will, there might be some additional forms if you homeschooled last year, but as far as registering, Mary will make sure when she gets your application that she contacts you.
Thank you. And another question, will we have access to Chromebook sign out program again this year?
Yes. And when your teacher calls to set up your WSLP, that's when you will talk about the Chromebook. We can drop them off or you can pick them up. And if you don't live in Port Angeles, we will arrange how to make that happen. I think I forgot one other thing, and this is random, but it just thought of, you know, if you have a child who is really into, let's say, gymnastics, or they play, they might ride horses, they may be taking horse riding lessons, they may be taking tennis lessons. Those are all things we can incorporate into their learning plan and help them with their hours throughout the week. So I know I said we incorporated family interests and whatnot, but I also wanted to know that there are a lot of kids out there taking some pretty intense out of school piano lessons or music lessons. And I wanted them to know that those would count towards their learning plan.
Yeah. Another question. So Candy has a student that's dual enrolled with the high school. So do the kids need to register at the high school for their elective classes and get their ASB cards tomorrow?
Yes. Well, it depends what grade they're in. If they're a senior, I think they go in the morning, and then a junior is in the afternoon, and then Wednesday are their freshmen. Cheryl, do you know exactly when those? I know tomorrow are seniors and juniors. They both register.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the dates are, but I know they're coming up quite quickly, but maybe even contacting the counselors to get those electives figured out would be really important to do if you're taking them at the high school.
Right.
Yeah, and I can pull that up when the rider dates are. Oh, 11th and 12th. Yeah, freshmen. Let me see.
Thursday.
Get back to you on that, Candy.
I'm pretty sure the Thursday is the 9th and 10th graders.
Perfect.
And that's normal, as in any school, college as well. The older you are, the earlier you get to go to register. And okay, so tomorrow our juniors and seniors at Port Angeles High School, sophomores are on Wednesday, and Thursday is our freshmen. And if you get up there and you have any questions, you call me while you're there. And especially if there's a huge long line waiting for your counselor, I'd be happy to try to get you some answers so that it doesn't seem so confusing if it is.
All right.
You will get enrollment. We have a question from Shonda Hicks. You will get enrollment information for Edgenuity when your teacher calls you, and they will absolutely send you and talk to you about your Edgenuity and how you set that up, how you set your profile and create all that for your child. And if you're in middle school, the teacher uploads all that information and all those classes into, so that when they are uploading those classes, so that when the child logs on, what we want you to see are what you agreed with the teacher. And then if you don't see what you think you're going to see, that conversation, you want to shoot your email or text or call your teacher and let them know, I'm not seeing what we agreed upon. Because it's still technology, and there will be times when you might log on and you're like, what? I can't, my password's not working. And that's just a quick phone call or text or email to your teachers. And I am so proud of the fact that Edgenuity, as well as our staff, they are so on those problems. And I have rarely seen that last for more than an hour or two, because we can get that resolved. But we really need you to let us know immediately if anything's happening so we can resolve that for you.
And Cindy, can I jump in quick?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and get a hold of Shonda. And what I generally do with each of my students is I have like at least works out to be about 45 minutes or an hour Google Meet with the parent and the child. And I can share my screen and we walk through all of those classes and what the expectations are and how all of it works. And then we follow up And then as I do the Google Meets with my whole classes, you know, I'll split the younger kids and have a Google Meet with them. And then I have a Google Meet with just my 8th graders. Then we walk through how that works for quite a few weeks to make sure that everybody's on that page. And then I've also found that it's kind of helpful to do it a little bit later. To be like, remember, we went over there at that one time, and now let's just kind of follow up. Okay, let's make sure everybody's on the same page. And that tends to work. It does take, there's a little bit of a learning curve if you haven't done Edgenuity before, but it is the kids are quick to figure it out. And parents too. But just wanted to say that. Hi, Shonda.
So thank you, Christine. And then there's another question from Amanda. So we signed up with the school counselor at Stevens for electives. That relates to high school electives. Did we? Oh, that was a different question from Amanda. Will Seaview do their own picture day, or we have to do it through Stevens and the elementary schools?
We are planning to do what we did last year and offer our own picture days. But if you are being shared and so if your son or daughter is attending any of those schools, like Stevens or the high school, and like tomorrow, let's say you go in, your senior registers, gets their picture taken, they don't need to come to us, right? If they miss that opportunity, or they're having a bad hair day, or no, I'm not getting my picture taken, then they can come to us. And so we'll have ours again in October, and we will send that out. In fact, I have a 12 o'clock meeting with the picture people. And so, yes, you can definitely, Seaview will have their own picture. We had 2 dates last year, and my plan is to offer the same to our families this year. But also, I know that if you miss ours, I really need to know, so that there could be a school where you could go and get your picture taken, and you know, we could be in between Stevens or whatever. So we just need to talk and make sure that we all give you the dates so that you can get those ahead of time. Because the pictures, even if you don't buy them, you get a free ID. So that's a really sweet thing. And the sweetest thing last year, I have to tell a couple of human stories, is the 5-year-old that comes in with her first photo ID. She was so excited. It just, you know, warms your heart when you realize that it's those little things that sometimes we take for granted, that when you see it through the eyes of a 5-year-old, you're like, whoa, that's a pretty big deal. So everybody gets an ID card, whether they purchase the pictures or not.
All right, well, we don't have any more questions in the chat. Now's our time. Please feel free. You can unmute, ask your questions, or put it in the chat. And follow up with us afterwards. We'd love to hear from you.
One other thing I think I forgot is we will have clubs and activities that you'll be able to access remotely. Last year we had a middle school game club. I don't know, I know something similar will be offered this year for students. And you need to understand, these are never required. If there's a Google Meet and you're like, oh my goodness, we just can't do that today. Unless it's an appointment that you have with your teacher for your weekly or your monthly, these types of activities always, they're never mandatory. So, but another way to engage students is to have those game clubs, or TSA, which is the Technology Student Association through the middle school, or trying to get kids involved in high school clubs online. So we will have those opportunities so that kids see Seaview as something more than just, you know, where they go to get their academics. They'll also be able to have some fun and as much as possible, human interaction. No, we will have our own picture day for Stevens. We will have our own location, our own times, and so they will be separate. I just mentioned that if you are shared and you attend both Stevens and Seaview, and if you wanted to, you could choose to get your picture at Stevens. It's totally up to the family. I know some families that are doing both. They registered at Stevens today. They went in, they got their picture taken. So they can come to Seaview and do it, or they don't need to. So just more options.
Awesome. And then Tammy asked a question, when will 2nd and 10th graders meet their teachers?
Next, hopefully starting the end of this week or next week, you will start getting that email, or most teachers will send out the initial hello, welcome, my name is, through an email. But once you get to know the family, there are other ways to communicate, and that will be something that you guys decide on your own. But first, will either be an email or a phone call where you are, they'll talk to you over the telephone, and it's a little faster. So if you're secondary and you see a number you don't notice, just answer it, or because often high school kids won't answer numbers they don't know, but if we text them, they'll call us right back. So there's different ways we have learned that you communicate with a second grader as maybe a senior. And also the time of day. I think our secondary teachers were a little shocked. They go to bed at 9 or 9:30 and their inbox is clean, and they wake up and it's packed with all these assignments they're now grading because their high school kids worked all night. So it's just another reason why this fits for certain kids.
Awesome. And so if they don't hear about their assigned teachers by Friday, so we're thinking by Friday they should
I'd
know.
say give them till Monday. If
Or
you haven't
Monday,
heard from someone by Monday, please call Seaview. We will be writing down those names, and we will be working hard to make sure that happens. We want, if you've enrolled by this Friday, we want you to be able to access school by September 2nd. Now, if you enroll on September 1st, it's very unlikely you're going to get a phone call by the 2nd and get to enroll. Not to say you wouldn't, or the 3rd. And I'm not saying not to enroll on the 1st, or if you know someone and you've been talking to them. I'm just saying this, if you know you want Seaview and an online, then enroll, and we can call you. And what if by the end of the conversation you're like, I don't know. It's okay. We've talked it through. It's okay to change your mind.
And then Tammy had another question. When is laptop pickup day? Is there going to be an assigned date?
That's going to be kind of arranged through the mentor teacher, and that's something we'll either we will let you know. I guess I could say starting next week, we will have the ability to start. Right now, we're trying to get a handle on who's at Seaview, who needs a Chromebook, who doesn't, and then making sure we have a system of checkout that is organized. And one of the things is just knowing right now who's going to be attending, who needs the technology, and then we will either be, you can call, and if you need a Chromebook and you know you need one, call Seaview tomorrow and we will start working on getting you a Chromebook. You don't need to wait for your teacher. If that is something that's going to help with the stress or the, just we will work that. Even if we talk you through, we might arrange for a meeting on Monday, or I can arrange to drop it off. So call tomorrow if you know you need a Chromebook, and we will write your name down and start working on that, and give that to your teacher. When I'm talking to the secondary, I write it on their WSLP. I'll say needs a Chromebook. So that way the teacher knows, okay, needs a Chromebook.
Thank you, Cindy. And then Yuko asked, how will PE classes be conducted?
Well, we have different ways. We can assign a lifetime fitness class online, and I've actually had kids prefer that and find it quite interesting and engaging, especially if you've got a kid who wants to go into physical therapy, or they want to be a sports trainer, or a physical therapist. So a lot of them want that. Other kids will take a PE contract and log, and then they make a contract with their mentor teacher on what physical activity they're going to count towards their PE contract. And 75 hours of an approved upon physical activity can be their PE that they get to get credit for. And so like last year, there were several girls at Seaview that were very involved in horse riding, caring for horses. Some of them, the only way they could afford to ride a horse is to work at the barn where their horse was being kept. And so they worked probably 4 hours a day and more on the weekend. So we incorporated, teachers incorporated all of that. I also had a student who they are an avid hiking family, and they recorded their hikes with pictures and details about where they went, about, not long journal entries, because this was something they were interested in. I have kids who have logged bicycling, walking their dogs. So all of those. With the little ones, it's just being creative, and maybe it's jump roping so many minutes a day, or jumping on the trampoline so many minutes. So all of those things can count for PE.
Any other questions, comments?
I'm over.
No, this is great. This is a lot of great questions coming in, and thank you, Cindy, for taking the time to touch base with everyone, and Cheryl for sharing about the secondary experience, and Stephanie and Eric and Paula and Christine. Thank you so much. You guys have been living and breathing Seaview over this last year plus. So thank you for supporting. And yeah, so we're excited to get students back online, learning in this new school year. And I'm going to put Cindy's name in the chat and contact information again. If you have any questions at all at any time, please give Seaview a call. We are here to answer your questions and take care of you during this time, this wacky time, but we're all in this together. And so we are grateful for your time, and we look forward to getting to know you better. So with that ado, I don't see any other questions, any other comments.
Anybody have any lasting words of wisdom? Coco, Paula, you've been awful quiet.
That Amanda had a question regarding the Orca Lab for our elementary students, and she's asking if they can come Monday through Thursday. So the teachers will be meeting on Thursday. We'll be putting together their schedule for tutoring and enrichment activities at that time, so we can send that out and have that ready at that time. Does that work?
And to all our Seaview families, last year we had a weekly newsletter, and we hope to continue that this year. And we added, so there were weekly reminders of things coming up like tutoring and enrichment and online experiences that kids could enjoy, as well as picture day and all those other little things that make school so much fun. By the way, we are part of the Port Angeles School District. We follow the Port Angeles School calendar, and so those days that are for student conferences, those are the same days Seaview teachers will then be conducting those kinds of activities. So Christmas break, we follow all the same holidays and work days as the Port Angeles. So if you would like to see that calendar to help plan for your year, it is on the website as well as on the Port Angeles School District website.
All right. Well, thank you again, everyone. And like I said before, so this meeting is recorded, and we will be able to send this out to all the participants who joined us this evening and who were not able to. So thank you again for your time. Reach out if you have any questions, and we look forward to seeing you later. And yes, Amanda, go Orcas. Way to go, Seaview Orcas. All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Looking forward to
Bye.
meeting families.
Yeah, I look forward to meeting families too. I can't wait. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.